what's going on, guys? I am just going to put out a quick video. This is just going to be a rant about the officiating yesterday and Sunday night football between the Packers and the 49ers. The officiating in this game was atrocious, and there are a few specific plays that I want to talk about because I just think there needs to be a change. There needs to be a change altogether, whether it be college or the NFL. There needs to be a change altogether because this is a problem. This is a problem when you have a game that everybody is watching and the officials are getting certain calls wrong. Fair warning, I won't have any of the videos of any of these specific plays in this video, but I will find Twitter links to them and post those in the description so you can look at all these plays and understand what I'm talking about. The first play I'm really gonna get into, and this was a game changer. It was the Jimmy Garoppolo throw before halftime. It was second down from the 1 yard line. Uh, Jimmy Garoppolo threw the ball straight into the ground, and when I initially saw it, I was thinking, okay, this isn't a problem. They were at the one, likely somebody was in the vicinity of the ball. Like you're there was more than likely somebody that was close enough to catch it who was trying to complete a pass. When I looked at it again and when I saw this video again, you could see Jimmy Garoppolo's arm motion was not going like this. His arm motion was going like this. There was no effort. You are not trying to complete a pass by throwing the ball like this. And the fact that he's essentially spiking the ball into the ground. And this is less a knock on these specific officials as it is on the system because intentional grounding plays need to be reviewable. This is stuff I don't understand why we think that four officials gathering together and talking is gonna solve anything. Why do we think that these four guys talking is going to solve anything? Why do we think that, oh, majority rules, oh, three of us said no, one of us said yes, well, I guess it's not intentional grounding. You have all these cameras at the game. You have all this technology now that you can review that stuff. And it's not just this game alone. There are so many borderline intentional grounding calls that are not looked at, and I just have a problem with it, whether it be college or the NFL, whether it be, whether it be seen if a guy was inside the pocket, out of the pocket, whether it be seen if there was a receiver in the vicinity of a ball, whether it be, was the quarterback's arm getting hit. All that stuff plays into it, and I don't blame the refs for not being able to keep track of all that stuff. But this is a big play in the game, and this stuff needs to be reviewed. If there is a borderline intentional grounding call, it should be reviewed. And that is a major problem in all of football because of a simple fact that this stuff, not calling intentional grounding, can lead to points, as it did in this scenario. They scored with 2 seconds left. If this is called intentional grounding, there's a 10-second runoff. There's no time on the clock. We go to halftime. It's 17-0 Packers. And again, this isn't just this specific game. This isn't just these specific officials. It's just all around. The system needs to change because that is a play that I think should be reviewed every time. When it is a borderline call, it needs to be reviewed because play or game altering plays like that should be looked at. And so anyways, they score a touchdown. They end up taking all the momentum away from the Packers. And they almost won that game. This was a big play in the game. Now, the next biggest thing I wanted to talk about was just the idea. So the helmet-to-helmet hit on Davante Adams that wasn't called. I do not understand why or how the NFL is going to continue saying, oh, we care about player safety, we care about concussions, we do all this and that. Why are you not reviewing a play when a guy is literally unconscious on the field? Davante Adams got knocked out on that play. I don't care who you are. You need to review that. Now, I'm not saying that the rules in the NFL should be the same as college because I think there are too many ejections in college football. But when there is a guy that is laying unconscious on the field, that is something that needs to be looked at. I don't care if an official didn't see it initially. Throw a flag, review it, and then confirm, okay, it was helmet to helmet. This is a penalty, whatever. And I'm glad Davante Adams was okay. He ended up coming back into the game. That's good. We care a lot more about the safety of a player than we do about a flag being thrown. but still, this is the issue with the NFL, is that they think a big hit like this is, oh, a $5,000 fine, oh, a $10,000 fine, that'll do it. $10,000 is a slap on the wrist for somebody that's making millions of dollars a year. $10,000 is absolutely nothing for them. They could go and burn $10,000 and not think twice. That is the issue. You are never going to fix player safety if you just think, oh, a $5,000 fine, that's fine. Yeah, let's just fine them. Let's just fine them $5,000. No, I mean, look at it a couple years ago when Cam Newton was giving the balls to fans before, celebrations were allowed in the NFL. Cam Newton kept doing it after they were fining him. That just goes to show you how much fines don't matter to these players. And it's just a slap on the wrist, and it needs to change. If someone goes in helmet to helmet, if you review it and see that this was a helmet to helmet hit, and I hate using the word intent because I don't think any player ever has intent to injure another player, but I do think there's a difference between, okay, laying a big hit and actually going in helmet to helmet where you're essentially putting someone in danger is a better word than intent. Putting someone in danger is it needs to be looked at. If you care that much about player safety, you need to be able to look at that play. There is a guy that is knocked out on the field. You can do the review while the trainers are checking up on him and realize that this was not a clean hit, and it's a 15-yard penalty. And the guy should be ejected for it. If it's helmet to helmet hit, the guy should be ejected, no matter what sport it is. I do think there's too many ejections in college football. I'm not going to get into that. But if it's helmet to helmet, it's an ejection. And that wasn't the only helmet to helmet hit in the game. There was one earlier, and I don't remember who had the ball for the 49ers, but they went down and some guy on the Packers, I believe it was on the Packers, came in kind of late, slid into his helmet. Now this one was a little bit more ticky-tack because the guy who went down, I believe, was just trying to intentionally go down, and he ended up almost just falling forward instead of sliding, which is obviously not the proper way to go down. And I think the defensive player was trying to make a hit towards the legs, trip him up as he was running. That one was a little bit more ticky-tack, but still, if it's helmet-to-helmet contact, I think it needs to be called, and especially the one on Davante Adams, but this one also was still a helmet-to-helmet hit, and it should be a 15-yard penalty. You are never going to fix player safety if you aren't willing to review these calls. If you think that it's a good idea for 4 officials to get together and talk about the play and just say, oh, I didn't see it. No, you have more than 4 cameras in the building. You have more than 4 different camera angles that you can look at. Why are 4 sets of eyes better than 20 different camera angles, or however many cameras there may be? Why are 4 sets of eyes the move? Why are who thought that was a good idea to have 4 officials gather around each other and just say, oh, I didn't see it, we'll let it go. There is a guy that is knocked out on the field. Somebody has to do something. Upstairs in the booth, somebody has to say something like, we need to look at that. There are not enough booth reviews in the NFL, and that is my issue, because if you have 4 officials on the field, they can't see everything. They have players in their way, coaches in their way, whatever it may be. You have guys in the booth that can see these plays a lot better than the officials on the field, and they need to, call down to these officials and say, whatever, this needs to be reviewed, or we need to look at this one, or, whatever, because I'd much rather see, 10 reviews in a game and have a game take 4.5, 5 hours than see no reviews in a game and have a game go 3 hours. I understand I don't want to slow the game down too much, and that's a little bit of an over-exaggeration, but if there are plays where it's helmet-to-helmet contact, where it's player safety involved, I think that it needs to be looked at, and if it is helmet to helmet, the guy should be ejected. And if it's like college, if it happens in the second half, you're ejected for the rest of that game plus the first half of the next game, and if it happens in the first half, you're just ejected for the rest of that game. Either way, this needs to change, because fining a player $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, whatever it may be, it's never going to work. It's never going to change anything, because that is a slap on the wrist to them that isn't going to do anything to change the game, to change this idea of player safety. Yes, they're making steps to do it. Why are we not reviewing these plays where a guy is getting knocked out on the field? This isn't the only game it's happened. What are we doing talking about player safety and not being willing to review these plays? I just don't get it. I just will never understand it because at this point I don't know what is targeting, what isn't targeting, and again, especially in college, but even in the NFL, it's like why is this not a reviewable play? If it were reviewable, I mean, worst comes to worst, to realize, oh, he was leading with the shoulder. Okay, that's a clean hit. He's just playing hard. You move on. If you realize it's helmet to helmet, the player needs to be punished more than just a $5,000 fine because that is never going to do anything. That is never going to change the game. That is never going to change the idea of player safety. If they get suspended for part of a game, it changes it a lot more. There is a little bit more of a punishment than just saying, oh, $5,000. Like, that's chump change to them. That is chump change to most NFL players. And then the next thing I was going to talk about, and this may be the last thing I'm going to talk about, there was a play in the game, late in the game. This was on the 49ers drive that ended up giving them the lead before the Packers went down and kicked the game-winning field goal. The first play of that drive was a backwards pass, and the refs didn't see it. They just acted like nothing happened. First of all, there is a side judge that should be able to tell that it was a backwards pass. There is a side judge that should be able to make that call. But if not, this is another thing where someone in the booth needs to say that was a backwards pass, or that may have been a backwards pass. Let's look at it. And I know I'm talking a lot about reviews, but look, this stuff is not going to happen in every game. I'd rather have you review 4 plays, 5 plays in one game than just move on like nothing happened. Why do we think it's a good idea for, again, 4 officials to talk with each other and decide that, oh yeah, well, I didn't see it. I didn't see it. Well, okay, fine. Let's move on. Who cares? There are a lot of people that care, and I will say this. With the idea of sports gambling becoming bigger and bigger and bigger by the year, I mean, it is being legalized in more and more states. There are more and more people doing this, that a lot of people care about this. A lot of people care about the right calls being made. And I'm not saying that the refs should care about, people betting on the game, but it's almost more imperative that these calls end up being the correct call, because there are so many people that have so much money riding on this game. And it's like, as a gambler myself, I know that one of the worst feelings behind just a terrible, terrible beat, one of the worst feelings in a bet is when the refs very clearly cost you your bet. When you can't do anything about it because you were on the right side, you made the right bet, and the refs basically screwed you out of it. And so when you make a backwards pass, again, this is just another thing that needs to be reviewed, that someone needs to say, or it doesn't even need to be reviewed every time. If someone sees that it's a backwards pass, they can call down to those refs on the field, or they can say something to somebody, whatever it needs to be, and just say, either we need to look at this, or okay, that was very clearly a backwards pass, and the ref can go out and say in his little microphone, the ruling on the field is that it was a backwards pass. The ball will be placed at this spot where it went out of bounds, and whatever, go on with the game. And again, if it's a ticky tack, if it's very close, then yes, review it. If it's very clearly a backwards pass, then don't review it. I mean, I was screaming at my TV yesterday because there were so many. I mean, those 3 specifically, there was a PI call that probably wasn't PI, but I'm not going to get into that because PI calls are missed, so frequently in football that it's just not even worth talking about. Now, again, PI calls, you can't review every single pass interference call. They get missed all the time. I'm not going to go too into it. But those 3 specific calls are plays that I think should be reviewed. And again, we're just, these guys that are playing on the field are working their asses off. They are working so hard to win this football game. And again, in football, you don't have a long season. One loss can completely change your season. And these guys are going to work every day, practicing super hard. They get to the game, and now these four old guys in black and white stripes are the ones that decide the outcome of a game. And again, you can see it. Players get into it because they get frustrated when they know that, okay, this wasn't the right call. They get into it. And there is a reason that there is so much emotion on those players' faces, because they know it wasn't the right call. And why do we think that four old guys in black and white stripes are the right people to decide the game? Why are we not using the technology we have to review more plays, to initiate more reviews, to make sure the game is called in a proper way, to make sure the better team wins? Because when the better team doesn't win, this can result in a worse team getting into the playoffs. And instead of this game being a 7-point game, it's a 17-point game because you made 3 terrible calls or 4 terrible calls or even 1 terrible call in a game. I mean, look at the Saints a few years back against the Rams. The Saints should have been in the Super Bowl, and instead they weren't. And we watched one of the worst Super Bowls in the history of Super Bowls. It was the boringest game I've ever watched. And that is the issue, is that these calls are not getting right. They're consistently not getting the right call on the field, and more reviews need to be made. And if they aren't made, nothing is going to change in football, and it's going to be continue to be frustrating to watch, because we are watching players who worked super hard to get to this game just get screwed by the refs, and and the refs can walk back home and act like nothing happened, while these players at times will be, I'm gonna say it. These players, and there are people that are ruthless on social media, these players will receive death threats because they committed a pass interference penalty, and they have to deal with that, while these refs can go back home to their family like nothing happened. Like absolutely nothing happened. Nobody really pays attention to the name of the ref. People know the name of the player that did something wrong. So why are we not getting these calls right? That is all I have. But I'm going to post the link of some of these clips in the description of this video, just so you guys can know what I'm talking about. But I think this is more a knock on the system in both college football and the NFL. Things need to change. More reviews need to be made, because it is so frustrating to watch the game of football right now when so many calls are the wrong call on the field. Okay, that's all I have. Please like and subscribe. Thank you, guys.